Just because you're experiencing, it may not be true. In contrast to these two approaches, there's the third approach which we are going to talk about today, the I am, the inquiry, spiritual philosophical inquiry into ourselves. Spirituality comes in various flavors. There are different paradigms, different approaches to spirituality. Today, you can see the subject is the inquiry into the I am, into the self. That's one kind of spirituality. It's helpful to distinguish it from other kinds of spirituality. To understand exactly what we are going to do, it's good. One way of understanding is to understand what it is not. How is it different from other forms of spirituality? One form of spirituality we are all familiar with, very common. That is the theistic approach, the devotional approach, the bhakti approach, where we are told that there is a God, typically omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, the creator of this world, all-powerful, controlling everything. And if you want to be spiritual, if you want liberation, moksha, salvation, whatever it is, then you have to have faith in God and devotion to God, worship God, surrender to God. This is one model of spirituality. And it's very common throughout the world. This is one kind. But remember, this kind of spirituality is entirely based on faith. In fact, in the United States, instead of religion, the word that is commonly used is faith. Why? I was just thinking, why? Because in the West, in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East, religion and faith are synonymous. Religion means you believe in something. That's why it's correct to use the word faith for religion. But there are other forms of religion which need not be faith-based, which we'll come to. The problem with this approach is, if you don't believe, especially in an audience like this, young people who are engineers, I've noticed one thing among engineers, why these Vedanta talks are often more popular among engineers in engineering colleges. So engineers like to understand things. They like to understand how things work. They like to take things apart and then put it back together so you know what's the inner working. Now, if you say you have to believe it, how do I know that these things are true? What religion tells me? Maan lo. If you say just believe it, often there might be a lot of people who may not want to believe it. Especially it is said in this day and age, in today's age, there have never been so many atheists and agnostics as there are today. In the entire history of humanity, there have always been people who did not believe. Always. But now, there are very large numbers of people who might say, I don't believe in religion, or who might say, I'm undecided, atheist or agnostic. Another model, another paradigm of spirituality is what one might call the yogic approach to spirituality. It is an experience-based approach. Vivekananda became famous for that. How did the young student Narendranath Datta become Swami Vivekananda? He went around asking in late 19th century Calcutta, Sir, have you seen God? Not, does God exist? Do you believe in God? No. Have you seen God? And we know the story how Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said affirmatively, yes, I have seen God. Just as I see you even more clearly. And if you follow these in this way, if you do sadhana, you will also be able to see God. So there is this other approach to spirituality, not just believing in something, but there is some practice that one can do and actually get an experience, God experience, or the experience of our real nature, self. Vivekananda says, if God exists, we should be able to see God, or experience God at least. If I have an immortal soul, if it's true, I should be able to experience it, feel it. So, for example, something like the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. There you will see, it's not a question of believing in something. So it is a question of experiencing that you are this limitless consciousness, which is called the Purusha there. So sit in this way, breathe in this way, withdraw your senses from the world in this way, turn inwards and focus, meditate and attain samadhi in this way. And the claim is, in these extraordinary states of the mind, you will get extraordinary mystical experiences which will prove to you the claims of religion. So that's the mystical experiential model. And that became very popular in the 20th century. Most of the New Age religious movements in the West are sort of experiential in nature, quote unquote. But there's a problem with that also. The problem is, You may think you are experiencing it, but you may be mistaken. It could be that, all throughout history, the great mystics, what was the reaction of common people to these mystics? That you are crazy. You're mad. Even Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when he claimed that he was having a vision of Kali, most people in Dakshineshwar and neighboring areas, they called him the mad priest of the Kali temple. So crazy. Today, we are more polite. Neuroscientists will not say you're crazy. They'll say that crazy is not the right word these days. There's a new word, neurodiverse. So you'll say you're neurodiverse. or more likely, you'll say you are, there was this most famous TED talk. A lady who's a brain scientist herself, or a doctor. She had a stroke. And then she felt one with the universe. I've forgotten her name, but if you look it up, right, okay. And her book and her TED talk became very popular. So is she one with the universe? No, she feels that she is one with the universe. And that's because of a stroke in the brain. So someone might say, we don't doubt you're seeing light, or you think you're seeing God, or you're feeling one with the universe. But it's just because, it's not that you're seeing God. It's not that you're one with the universe. It's just because you have had a stroke in the brain, some kind of malfunction is going on. There's bleeding in this part of the brain, or a tumor, and that's what is causing it. Or even more common, simply, you're hallucinating. Or, what is very common where I live, that's in New York, if you go out after 5 o'clock in the evening, many people are having spiritual experiences. Because, especially after they legalized marijuana, So literally, you step out of the ashram, outside the ashram, more spirituality than inside the ashram. So, if you claim special experiences, it's true that there are genuine mystical experiences. That's all how the great mystics of the world, But one could be mistaken, and one could doubt it. Why do people doubt it? Because we are not sharing that experience. Only that mystic is having that experience. The rest of us are not having that experience. So we will immediately label it as something abnormal. Could be a brain problem, could be drugs, could be a mental illness, whatever it is. But it's not normal, it's not real. We can label it that way. It can be doubted. Just because you're experiencing, it may not be true. In contrast to these two approaches, there's the third approach which we are going to talk about today, the I am, the inquiry, spiritual philosophical inquiry into ourselves. Where, number one, we are not asked to believe in anything. Number two, we are not even talking about any extraordinary experience. We will confine ourselves to the quotidian, daily experience which we all have all the time. After all, who does not experience waking, dreaming, sleeping? We all experience waking, dreaming, sleeping. So the jnana approach, the approach of knowledge, the approach of inquiry, bases itself on reason and on shared experience, on publicly shared experience. We all have these experiences. So it's somehow, for at least a certain class of people, it's very convincing. It's much more convincing than, say, a purely devotional, faith-based approach, or a purely mystical, experience-based approach. Though those are valid, very much valid. Remember, we're not cutting down those approaches. But we are focusing now on this I am, inquiry into reality. Specifically, inquiry into the I am. Why? The claim in Advaita Vedanta, which is a major school of Vedanta, the claim is there is an ultimate reality of the universe, which is non-dual Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss, variously spoken of as Sat, Chit, Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, and so on. But the crucial teaching is, you are that. I am that. The Tattvamasi, you are that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that. Now, what we are going to talk about, what is talked about, what is taught in the Advaita Vedanta approach, that is not something far away. The spiritual journey in Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in space. It does not say that you have to go from earth to heaven. It's not a journey in time. It does not say that you have to wait until death, then after death you will see God or heaven or whatever. It says no. What we are talking about, the Atman or Brahman, is present everywhere, not separated from you by space. It's present all the time. Not only then, but now. And it's not something separate from us. We're talking about you, our own nature. In Hindi, they say apna apa, your very own self. So what we are going to talk about is present all the time, everywhere, and it's literally you. It's literally me or you. Therefore, the inquiry into ourselves. Why inquiry? Again, think about it. Why inquiry? Why not meditation? Why not devotion? Why not faith? Why not social service? Why inquiry? Because if this Atman or Brahman, our own self, if it is present all the time, if it is present everywhere, it's present now, it's present here, it is you, then why don't we all experience it? Why don't we all realize it? Why isn't it a reality for all of us? And the answer is, it's right here, right now, but it's as if veiled by ignorance, just not knowing, not seeing, not realizing. And if it's ignorance is the problem, if it's that we don't know it, then the answer is always knowledge. Answer for ignorance is always knowledge. In any case, whatever you're doing, the whole institute is based upon this principle. The historian who wrote that book, Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari, he said something, he says whatever is known, he just says that only, but he puts it in with such a spin, it becomes very interesting. He says the beginning of science is ignorance. What do you mean? Science is based upon ignorance. Why? Until the idea of modern science was clarified in our heads, until that time, we thought we knew certain things. It's only when we realized that we don't really know, then inquiry started. So science comes from first of all, the appreciation, taking ignorance seriously. Then only inquiry starts. If it is true that I am Atman, Brahman, limitless consciousness, I am not the body, not the mind, if it is true, then I must say, I don't know it. Then I must inquire. Why inquire? All knowledge comes from inquiry. Where does knowledge come from? Inquiry. One must ask, at least ask Google. So, inquiry first. So, inquiry into what? Into the self, into the I, into myself.